Hells yeah. Very interesting couple of days.
Indeed. Get some shit done.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Ugh. You ought to just jump right in it, Ryan. I'll let you lead off with this one.
All right, folks. Well, welcome to the Partlodian podcast. I'm gonna start off little what's the word? Personal, intimate. I posted. We're actually doing a podcast today, and I posted the last podcast late yesterday. And as I did, I looked at our YouTube page, and I was, ooh, got a little red dot on the notification. Oh, somebody said something about our podcast, and I clicked on it. And it says, what was it exactly, Jimmy? You just read it.
Bad at podcasting and unfunny.
Okay. Yeah. I looked at that and I was like, okay.
I can respect honesty, you know?
Yeah, you know what? That's fair enough. Comedy is subjective. We're not the Partlodian comedy podcast, although I know we're a couple of, chuckleheads who laugh at the stuff that we say to each other. And then, of course, do I post podcasts every Sunday, every single week? No. Sometimes we miss a couple of weeks. I just posted one on Tuesday for today when we're recording for next Sunday. So it's like, yeah, as far as just that with habits, guys right on the nose. So I will say
about which part? I mean,
think of anybody who puts out podcasts or even just regular YouTube material in general. Unless there's like a doctor's appointment or I don't know if they're like super duper famous and they've got like court or whatever because they, crashed their car into a school or something. But anyways, we're very irregular on when we post our podcasts. I listened to maybe the last 5 minutes of the podcast that I posted yesterday, and I was like, oh geez, gotta really knock off the drinking right before we even start recording. Maybe have a couple of drinks as we're recording because it bleeds through.
Yeah, especially by the end.
It's not professional. No. But what I will say, Christopher Knowles of YouTube, hey, thanks, buddy.
Appreciate it. At least you reached out.
No, you know what? It's funny because you could sit there and you could be like, you know what, man, fuck that guy. But we've got
man. How can we say fuck that guy?
Yeah,
we're not exactly blowing it up in the views.
Yeah, well, and we've got 15 subscribers.
He listened long enough to put his opinion out there.
I know, right? And I not only do I respect that, I actually I appreciate the feedback.
Yes.
It's very good. We're gonna try and do better. I made a joke earlier that, like, you know what? Let's tailor all of our material to whatever he wants. I'm not gonna do that, but we are gonna try and do better.
What's funny about that is he commented on an episode that you titled "I Need to Do Better."
Yeah, I know, right? And hey, you know what? It has been something that's been on my mind because, I mean, think of it. How many, dude, that's the thing. Once again, you'd figure like, I want to do some quality control. Maybe I'll listen to my own podcast. Make sure everything sounds good. Make sure we don't sound like a couple of fucking dumbasses. Nah, don't do that. Just record our ideas and just fling them out into the internet. I don't listen to it.
I try to scan over it, but I don't always. Sometimes I'll just
Yeah.
bounce around, double check certain things, and sometimes I'm amused by it. But
Yeah,
you know,
but yeah,
I'm
I
also
mean,
can be very critical of myself.
well, I
but
mean, and
it's what it is.
not even just the content, just the quality control of it. I've had people tell me like, yeah, the volume can maybe go up a little bit.
Yeah.
So hopefully with this episode, we will solve that episode. And hopefully our content will be a little bit more clear headed and a little bit more clear sounding. Well, the sound always sounded clear. We spent enough money on this equipment.
Yeah.
But you also have to understand that it was like, I don't know how many episodes we even have online, right? So let's say
I think it's 17 or 18.
17. Okay. And very few of them, I don't think any of them are less than an hour, right?
There might be one or two, but they're at 50 something minutes. Everything's at least
Okay.
an hour, and
Well,
there's a handful that's an hour and a half.
Okay, well, 17 episodes. Let's say you were forced to listen to us and give a commentary on our material. You'd have to waste
19 videos.
Okay.
Sorry,
Well, hey, you'd have to waste an entire day of your life listening to us to from start to right now, and it's like, really? There's so many other people giving so much better content, and maybe there's some people out there who are giving just as shitty or shittier content than us. And it's like, you know what? It's not fair. We're expecting people to. Well, you know what? Actually, I was expecting people to give us feedback. This guy did. I really appreciate that. I don't want to. There's no sarcasm here. I really appreciate that because I don't know who this guy is.
No, it popped up and he clicked on it and took a listen.
I'm pretty certain I know who the majority of our subscribers are and his friends and family. And I get it. Are you going to get honest critiques? They don't want to hurt your feelings, blah, blah, blah. This random guy came in, said what he had to say. And yeah, you know what? Maybe it'll be the kick in the teeth I need to kind of get this thing, going good. And yeah, try and spend some more time on the background aspects of it rather than just, once again, just talking into a microphone and flinging your random thoughts out into the internet. Because you know what? There's a place for that. It's called Facebook.
Yeah. But I mean, it's not always like that. Sometimes we try to have a little bit of show prep. Now, granted, we could end up talking and have a little something we've had prepared. Then it'll go into something else. But
dude,
I kind of like that.
Goes off the rails, mostly because of me rambling.
But there's not. No, it'll hit another topic and it ends up going there. And personally, I don't care. But I guess maybe for other people, but.
Well, and I mean, and you know what? We're going to get off this and get on to the main topic of the show.
Anyway, one more time. Thank you, Christopher Knowles, for your honest opinion.
Yeah, and you might not even bother to click on this, but I'm going to link this fucking thing and I'm going to send it to your comment on our video that you commented on. I hope you check it out. I hope you give us some feedback. You might just be like, hey, you know what? It's better, but you still suck. That's fine. That's perfectly fine.
I mean, he might just be negative. I clicked on his profile for, sorry. I was just curious, maybe he just wasn't into but. There was just one quote there,
Well, and that's the thing about comedy. Comedy is subjective. I've not, it's what it is. We never purported to be a funny podcast, but I can, he didn't have a list. Well, he had a list. It was two things. You're not good at what you do and you're not funny. That's fine. That's fine. We've been doing this for a year. And the thing is too, it's like, we're not trying to make, it would be great. Oh, I would love to get paid to just talk into a microphone. But you and I both have regular jobs.
Yep.
We come here. This is a fun hobby. We throw it out there and people can think of it what they will. Hopefully we're not, trying to change people's, political opinions about things or get involved with, man, there's so much ridiculous shit that you can fall into a fucking rabbit hole on. You can't be like, what are we? Are we a political podcast? No, we talked about cartoons. We talk about food. We talk about music. Yeah. We talk about just random ass shit. It's just what it is. There's like 3 episodes that are just
we don't like to limit ourselves to labels.
Yeah. Power slop.
Yep, that's about it. No.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? The Partlodian Power Slop podcast. It's pretty good. But anyways, once again, you know, it's a thing where, you know, I've commented on people's podcasts and I get the little heart there. Nobody's ever been like, hey, thanks, you know, such and such from so-and-so for giving me this specific feedback. You know, nobody's ever said that. So I was like, hey, you know what? This is one guy I know I don't know. And it's cool to give him a shout out. We're going to try and do better. We're going to try and do better specifically for you. We're going to send this out to you. Now let's get on with the show. One of the main things you wanted to talk about that I think we could talk about for quite some time, because, I mean, we were children of the 80s, was video games.
Yes.
Now, I mentioned the children of the 80s thing, but did you want to talk about what you were getting into recently, or you want to talk about something in particular?
No, you go ahead and hit it off. You were messing with yours first.
Oh, okay. Well, then this is, I mean,
I like video games.
Well, this was a very frustrating game for a lot of kids, you know, back in the day for Nintendo. I mean, dude, Ninja Gaiden, Castlevania, just the first one was, you know, it was pretty simple. Move to the right or the left or up, and try not to get hit by bats or fireballs and fall into pits.
Especially when you're jumping over shit.
But then, and man, my favorite one, even as a kid, was Simon's Quest. Even though I didn't understand a fucking lick of it, I didn't know what I had to do anything. And part of that was because of, I believe it was Japanese and American translations kind of goofed up some of the instructions on what you had to do. And basically the only way you could beat it was Nintendo Power, you know. But I found this really good remake. I don't know where I found it. I think I found it on CD Romance, which is a ROM site where you can steal ROMs for everything from Nintendo to like Xbox.
Perhaps that's something you could put a link to, or just put it in the info for the video in case anybody wants to check it out.
If it still exists, yeah, I'd love to.
Okay, you've had this a while.
Well, no. Well, the thing is that I just recently, like within the past 6 months, got into this. It's CD, not CD, CD Romance, and it's a ROM site where you can download the ROMs for these games. And I think I tried to go back onto the website like a month ago, and it was a little bit difficult. Like I think that like Sony and Nintendo and Microsoft finally like cracked down on this website, so it might not exist. But if it does, I'll post a link. But I found this one. It wasn't even a ROM. This was an exe file that you could just download, and it was Castlevania Chronicles Simon's Quest. And it's basically a revamped, better graphics. It's still 2D, side-scrolling. I'll say, oh, geez, what was the original Sega and Super Nintendo? Was that 16?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say it's like 16-bit graphics, but they revamped the music. They revamped the graphics. Anybody who played Simon's Quest, there's no day and night cycles. Whenever you talk to the villagers, they give you valuable information that lets you know where you need to go. There's a mini map that lets you know what towns you're in and what castles you go to.
That wasn't on the original.
No.
Now I got to ask you before you continue. Were you not a fan of the day and night cycle? I thought that was awesome.
You know what the day and night cycle did? It allowed you to farm money for materials that you needed. So if you needed money for the thorn whip or the laurels or whatever, just wait for it to turn night, and then you would find a place in a town where the ghouls would pop up. And if you moved the screen left or right, ghouls would respawn.
Isn't nighttime when they'd start playing Bloody Tears?
Yes.
Yeah, that was I think that's why I like nighttime.
And I mean,
because that's one of the best Castlevania songs. There's so many good ones, but that's one of the best. I won't get stuck.
Well, no. But the thing was that at night in some of the areas outside of the towns, the enemies were harder. I believe they gave you a little bit better rewards. Like everything was paid for with blood drops. So during the day, if you killed a skeleton, it would give you 1 blood drop. but at night it would give you 2. So you could double your money by fighting enemies at night. You don't need that with this remake. The enemies are hard enough. You would go to the castles, and I mean that was one of the things about Simon's Quest was there was basically one boss. You fought the Grim Reaper. You fought Death.
Yeah.
And if you threw holy water down at his feet and then just whipped the shit out of him with a flame whip, you could defeat the main boss of Simon's Quest in like 3 seconds.
And it was Death. I remember how hard he was in the first one.
You know what?
Man.
No. That's right. It was Dracula, but he looked like the fucking Grim Reaper. I think that's what it was.
Did he have the boomerangs like Grim Reaper did?
No, dude, I don't know, because once I figured out how to beat him, because I didn't beat that game until I was maybe 27. Yeah. I never beat it as a kid.
That game was hard as fuck as a kid, man. It was like Zelda too. I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this?
But dude, each castle...
Where's the boss fights?
Each castle in the Nintendo version had this little orb, and you would throw an oak stake at it, and it would give you one of Dracula's body parts. There was no bosses. In this remake, every single castle has a boss. They're hard as shit. You need to actually use the items that you get in the game. Like, each boss has, strengths and weaknesses, and it's a very frustrating game. You don't get infinite continues. There's no password. There is a save system.
That's ridiculous with that game, man.
Dude, there's a save system.
At least Zelda 2 had a fucking battery pack for the saving and shit, Because those two were off the same fucking engine. You can tell because of the layout. I probably told you that a million times.
Oh, that's like a big thing that video game people say. It's like, Zelda 2 and Simon's Quest, that were like side-scrolling, where I think...
Zelda at least had the overhead map part where you travel around shit. But in terms of like leveling up and that little black menu that come down with all your shit there, all your items and magic and stuff, it was like the same. It looked exactly the same.
And then, I mean, Metroid did it first. Metroid for the Nintendo, and then Simon's Quest did... basically for the system. Like, I mean, did you ever... I mean, you played the original Metroid for Nintendo,
Yeah, it was great. I never beat it, though.
It was really good.
I loved it. It looked cool, but then I was like, this is getting really fucking hard. Because I was younger when I first played it also.
I never got far into it, but it seemed like... And I'm pretty sure Metroid for the Nintendo was a much bigger game than Simon's Quest was for the Nintendo, as far as places you could go. Mm-hmm. But Simon's Quest, like... The levels looked so much more vibrant. I mean, when you were in a town, you could see the bricks in the building. When you were in the woods, there was a background, there was a foreground. There's spiders dropping down, flinging webs and stuff, caves and flying eyeballs.
It was the first, where you got into that open world Castlevania. I forget if 3, I think, had levels. But it still had a little bit because you could choose your path.
Yeah. You had a path you could choose, and you had multiple characters you could choose from. I never played 3 as much as I played 1 and 2.
Same here. I played 3 a little bit later on. I never had really played it for the Nintendo. I think the main time I played it is when I got a Wii, and then they had the Virtual Console. I made a point to download the first 3 Castlevania games, just because they were all good. That third one's hard, though. I believe that's the era, though, that the cartoon's based off of.
But I love the it's called Metroidvania because the 2 big games that did that kind of side-scrolling open world thing were Metroid and Castlevania.
Because you got to give both of them credit. I know a lot of people, because there's a lot more Castlevania, Dude. Especially Symphony of the Night. That's one of the best games, though, man. High replay value, so much new shit. But I mean, you mentioned Metroid. Before Symphony of the Night, they had Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo, which is a fucking awesome game, man. You have a physical copy of that one.
You never played any of the Game Boy ones?
Those came after Symphony of the Night, though.
Yeah, no, they did, but Metroid still did. Like, because, I mean, there was some 3D ones, like some first-person shooters.
Oh, you're talking about Metroid for the Game Boy.
Yeah, well,
like Metroid 2. Return of Samus or some shit.
There was, I can't remember if it was the Advance or if it was for the DS.
Fusion?
There was Fusion. There was Zero Mission.
Yeah.
Badass games, dude. And once again, this is well into the period of time where, like, 3D realistic. I mean, I think Fusion and Zero Mission came out like after like big sandbox games like Grand Theft Auto 3 or Mercenaries
around that time
or
period.
Oblivion.
I
Not
don't know
Oblivion,
why there was
definitely
always
Morrowind.
I don't know why there was always such a delay for the Metroid games, because it's got a big fan base and they do well. And then they went into the first person for a while, which I got the first one, Prime. I mean, it was all right. Will's actually, he's replayed some of those. Some of the first person ones. He's at the last boss of Prime. He's taking a break from it. But they had put out the first 2D Metroid game in God knows how long on the Switch not too long ago, and he said that game was hard as shit. The name's not coming to me right off the bat, but it was just a couple years ago, and he said it was good, but it was like hard as shit, especially the boss fights.
But I mean, and it's like it's still holding on there, man. Like I said, big open world. Like, dude, I love Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. Games like 7 Days to Die, big open. I mean, Minecraft, as simple of a mechanic as that. I love the big open world sandbox games, but it's a testament to how good the fucking side-scrolling 2D platformer is that it's still going on today. I mean, you were playing one just over the weekend.
Oh yeah,
that I've never even heard of.
Yeah, Ori and the Blind Forest, and it's been out for a while. I'm trying to find the original date for it because this is a re-release for the Switch, but there's even a sequel for it. But so far, it's a really good game. I love those styles of games. Hollow Knight's another one which I need to get back to. Hard as shit. Need to get back to it though. A lot of those games though, it just if it's fucking awesome artwork and music and stuff, it'll lure me in like that. You can kind of know when to take the ones out that are like kind of iffy.
Well, yeah, but I mean, you have stuff like,
but Hollow Knight's fucking amazing.
Like Metroid, like Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo. You can say it's fast paced, you know, if you want, because there's people who, oh man, you can check out the YouTube videos of people doing speed runs and stuff like that. But it's a game where you can take your time. You know, you can go through, explore the world. But then even games that aren't Metroidvania. Dude, I don't even know if they've made, I don't know when the last new one was made, but I want to find, I don't even care if I have to play the Japanese version and have to just keep scrolling through menus. Metal Slug.
Oh, yeah.
Like fast-paced, running
the
gun,
Contra
shoot 'em
style.
up. Contra. Dude, the last good Contra game. Cuphead. Yeah, that's a, you know what, that's a perfect example. I don't know. I'm sure they've made new 2D side-scrolling platformers, but that was without me ever even playing it, seeing people play it, masterpiece. Dude, just in game design alone.
It's amazing. It's hard as fuck though.
We'll have to try that out.
Some of the levels, man, it's not even a level. It's just boss fights after boss fight that you go to, and they have like multiple phases to them. It's intense. But in terms of like some of the Metroidvania games, man, like Symphony of the Night, how much that game, you could beat it, but then you could do certain things. Remember, you could turn the castle upside down and shit if you got the certain rings. Wasn't there like a handful of different endings for that?
Oh yeah,
game?
yeah. And that's the thing. You know, yeah, okay, good ending, bad ending, that's fine. But you play through the game right with the castle upside, right side up. And it was a long game, and it took forever to beat. And then you find out, like, oh, if I got this particular item and did these specific things, I'm missing out on an extra 50% of the game. The first part of the game was amazing. And then you find out, oh, well, if I do this, this, and this, there's a whole other game that's just hidden if you didn't know what to do. Now, we live in the internet age now, where, I mean, I'm sure that there are people who would just go along every single wall. You know what I'm going to do with my character this time? I'm going to run my character, and I'm going to whip every surface of every wall and every panel of the castle. Okay? This is all the things I found like that. Cool. All right, well, now I'm going to throw axes at everything. And then they just go through it, and they'll find all these secrets. And, you know, God bless those people, because I'm not going to put my time and effort into it. But it's a really cool thing, and it must be a really triumphant thing when you find some secret and you post it out there. I mean, all you really get is, hey, good job, pal.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's still sweet though.
Oh yeah.
And I know some people bring it up. It doesn't bother me at all. Obviously, those games are a certain style, and they all kind of reuse some of the same moves that you enhance your character in. Because the double jump,
Oh yeah,
bouncing
yeah.
off the walls and stuff. But I don't care. Some people just like to bitch, I think.
Well, there's certain things too, because yeah, I mean you have this skeleton of a game, and that's fine, but storyline, enemy types, the way that they move, the way you build your character, yeah, you can go online and they'll say like, hey, if you have this weapon with these stats, it's the best character ever, but that might not suit your play style.
Mm-hmm.
And then a good example of it is Bloodstained. That was it was a Metroidvania game, a newer one, I think made like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago.
I have heard about it because me and Mike went through down a list of them. It was pretty nasty too,
dude. It was
in a good way. It was like, this looks cool as fuck. Isn't it violent?
I mean, it's violent.
And wasn't there a sequel to it?
I'm not sure about the sequel. Okay, I know. Well, what they did originally was they made a man, I always get confused on the bits. Because I think what it was the person who made Bloodstained, the one that you can get on like the Xbox and PlayStation consoles, they did a startup where they made either an 8-bit or a 16-bit kind of Castlevania-esque Bloodstained game, and then they put it out for free, and they're like, we want to do this bigger. And they gave that out for free, and people played it, and it was like a GoFundMe. They finally got the money, and then they made a much better game, Metroidvania. I believe the person who created Bloodstained, they wanted it to be, I want to say like a follow-up to Castlevania that wasn't connected to Castlevania. I forget how they explained it, but it's got that Metroidvania-esque style. But when it came to how you could, if you wanted to make a character that was good with guns, yeah, the game had guns in it. And the guns were super duper weak. But depending on what pieces of armor you wore and what souls you absorbed, you could be a good gunfighter. You could be a good swordsman. You could be a good dagger fighter. You could be a good, I believe they even had whips and stuff in the game. And it was sick. I played through it and I beat it one time. And I knew that when I beat it, I was like, there's more stuff. There's so much more stuff. If this person worked on the Castlevania games, there's hidden stuff in here that I missed. And unfortunately, I don't have my Xbox or any of that stuff anymore. I'd love to go back into it and play it again. But yeah, but the thing is that was in it had to have been earlier than 2020, later than 2022. I don't know. Once again, man, these dates, man, they messed me up.
I should have pulled up a list of them.
Sorry,
there's a few I
Christopher.
want to.
We're gonna do better on these dates.
I think there was also like one I've never played it, and obviously once I say that I believe it's in the same. It's like Dark Souls, but it's a side-scrolling Metroidvania game.
I know what you're talking about.
I forget the name of it.
I was talking to Leslie about it the other day. I believe it's called Tales of Iron.
Oh,
dude, I was talking to you about it while you were playing Ori. Yeah, Tales of Iron. I didn't get very far in it. Not from lack of trying. Once again, lost my system in my games and stuff. But yeah, dude, it's a side scroller. It's got kind of the graphics for it are almost like man, it sucks. I hate to use this as a description. I hate to use a game that I've never played as a description, but kind of like Paper Mario, where it's like 2D. But yeah, you're like you're the youngest heir in the Rat Kingdom. So like the king is defeated, I believe, and his sons have been defeated, and you're the youngest prince, and you have to fight against like all these lizards and frogs and stuff. But yeah, no, you have to do stuff like master parry, master dodge. And with Dark Souls, yeah, mastering parry and dodge with that game was very important. But pattern recognition, which was big, especially in the early Nintendo games. Once you got the pattern down, you could usually defeat any kind of boss. Remember when we went and saw Bit Brigade?
Yes.
That dude knew. Folks, if you don't know about Bit Brigade, these guys are fucking awesome. It's a
They do a really good job.
Is it a 5-piece?
I believe there was 5 guys up there.
It's a 5-piece band.
Definitely, because they also kind of count the guy who sits there and plays the game.
Oh, okay. Well, it's a group of guys, and they play the music to old school NES songs as the guy, as they have a guy playing the game. And I mean, they switch from one thing to another. So, the 2 examples we saw were Double Dragon and Ninja Gaiden. And you got to think, I mean, these guys are touring all across the country, I assume. So whoever's playing Double Dragon, whoever's playing Ninja Gaiden, or whatever game they're playing, that dude's played it so many times. You don't hear the death music, But that guy, I was sitting there watching him play. I was mesmerized by how good the band was, but I was also mesmerized by how the guy played the game, especially with Ninja Gaiden. He knew what candles to avoid.
Yep.
And what candles to get. So he would get all the ones with the weapons he wanted for that particular level. He would avoid certain candles. He would avoid certain enemies and just roll through that game. But it's all about pattern recognition. Once you get the patterns down, that's one thing. And that was a kind of a super complicated thing. I mean, dude, old school Nintendo games, what were they originally on before a console? They were cabinets. They were arcade games. They were meant for you to pump quarters in. Yeah, you could figure the
first Double
out.
Dragon, which they also played, was like that. There, he went through that one pretty fucking quick compared to Ninja Gaiden.
Oh yeah, but you could figure the pattern out. But you'd have to put, $20-$30 worth of quarters in before you even figured the pattern out.
Is
and
this
then
one
maybe
of the ones you were talking about? I mean, continue with the band, but
no.
Bloodstained.
Yeah, that's the one. Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night. Okay. That was a really good one.
And the Metroid one is Dread. That was the latest one that Will was working on.
Metroid Dread.
Yeah.
Ooh, is that a 2D side scroller?
Yeah, he's.
Man, what's it out for?
Switch.
All right, man, I'll buy it.
He said, and I believe that one's actually reasonably priced. Some of those they actually price.
Nintendo
decent.
reasonably prices a lot of their games, unless you go to some place that unreasonably prices them, like Target.
Yeah. I mean, then some of them it's like a little crazy. I didn't care about paying it because I was excited about the game. For some reason, they don't typically charge $70 for games, but Tears of the Kingdom was $70. But shit,
dude, when you showed me the
I love
map
that fucking
for that
game, though, man.
You could have paid $120 for that.
Oh yeah.
Now you beat the game, right?
Yeah, but it ain't no 100% for me on
exactly.
that.
That was my
dude.
next
The
question.
fucking Korok seeds. There ain't no way I go around trying to find 1,000 fucking of those little motherfuckers, man. Even the shrines would be a bitch, but I'll still end up picking it up again. I can't play like some people, man.
No, we don't have
And that's
time.
a sandbox game. I know it's not Metroidvania, but I know it's a popular game, but fuck it. Tears of the Kingdom, that sucked me in. I don't play video games like other people do all the time. That's a big thing. But
dude, we're busy
I loved
people.
it, and I made a point to I wanted to at least complete the story and get certain things completed. Get all the memories, all the main things to complete the main story part. There's a lot of shit to that. But all the side shit, that's just kind of hard. But I'll still. But it has replay value. I can go on that game and just decide to go to a certain area, go hunting, find cook up different shit. I felt like a dumbass because I didn't realize I was fusing different shit to the weapons and stuff. Like
I remember you
fusing
getting
the
excited
body.
about that.
Oh man, because the way it would change the body parts of some of the enemies and fusing them to your weapons, you could take a fucking weak ass sword and fuse it with a high powered enemy's fucking horn, and all of a sudden it's like a super weapon. It was pretty badass. It was a really good game, not overhyped at all.
Yeah, and I was watching you. Just I'd come home from work, sit there, watching you sit there and play that, and then you were like showing me the map, and you're like, yeah, this is just like the regular map, and then there's like, would you say there was like a cloud map and an underworld map? Maybe I'm using the wrong terminology.
Yeah, there's the depths, which is underneath the surface world, and that's as big as the whole fucking map of the surface world. And then you got up in the sky, you got all these fucking islands you can go to also and do shit. There's so much I haven't done on that fucking game, but I've put well over 100 hours into it, just because some of what I would do would just be wandering around and then collecting shit, like farming different items to make different types of elixirs and foods and shit like that.
Hells yeah, man. Well, you know what? It seems like we're going we're branching off from you know, the 2D open world into just straight up open world sandbox stuff. And I want to continue talking about this specifically with different games I know we've both played. But let's take a little bit of a break
Let's
real
take
quick.
a pause, refresh, and we'll be back.
Hells yeah.
That's what I'm talking about, man.
Damn.
He does a good fucking job.
That is really good. Can you hear this at all?
Banjo Guy Ollie.
That's awesome, man. I remember when you started sending me videos of this guy, man.
Oh no, he does a good job. Try to find a way to post a link or get his stuff out there. He does a good job. Damn. Wanted to jump in it, but it's just so good.
I know, right?
Yeah. Motherfucking bloody tears.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, I really hope it's not an issue with us playing his stuff on here, but I figured
Hey,
he's independent and he does his thing.
Nah, man.
Banjo Guy Ollie.
I was
Check out
gonna
his
say, man,
stuff.
You wanna bring the volume down?
Yeah,
on that
sorry
one?
about that.
No. I mean, like, we'll cut back into it. But yeah, dude, it's man. Once again, because we're such terrible podcasters.
Entirely possible thanks to people's support on Patreon and YouTube membership.
Oh.
He has Patreon and all that. Check out Banjo Guy Ollie.
Damn, man, I sat there and talked over
I
the
know.
thing.
You
You
should
know
have let
what?
the man put his
What we're
stuff
gonna
out
do?
there-
What we're
out
gonna
there.
do? I'm gonna link this guy in the description. His shit's fucking awesome. It's been awesome for years.
Yes.
I'll have to check out. I'd like to compare that one to his original one.
His original one, I think, is a bunch of. There's multiple banjos, like different types of banjos, and it's pretty much like that. This
Well-
one he's added. This is within the last year. The other one was like 6 or 9
You
years.
said it
ago.
seems like he's using like some synthesizers and
Yeah,
stuff.
he
And
started
I
using a
don't-
little bit in there.
You know, and I mean, like at the very beginning of that, I was like, okay, man, that sounds like it's straight from Nintendo with him adding some banjo stuff in. I like some of his just straight up with him doing the
I like
string
that too,
instruments.
but some of that before the synthesizer kicked in, he did have like a light squeeze box going. He plays the accordion and shit too, so
Nice.
some of it builds with that. No, he does a really good job on a lot of stuff, and People should check him out. Banjo Guy Ali.
Hells yeah, man. We'll put a link in the description. It'll be one of the first times we put. Well, I was gonna say like if we're gonna do it, we might as well do it big. I've never put any links to anything in any description. When we first started doing this, I think I put like a description of like a vague thing of what we were talking about. We're gonna put this stuff in here. But anyways,
No, he does good work, man. Especially on some classic Nintendo soundtracks like Mega Man 2.
hells yeah. Dude.
He's done actually a lot of the Mega Man games, but Castlevania, I think that's like one of his big ones, man. I think all
Really?
the original Castlevanias, he's done all the levels and stuff.
Nice.
And then there are some games I never really played, but the music's just really good.
Hells yeah, dude. Well, and that's one of those before we went into the break, we were gonna move from the 2D side scroller open world into like the new school 3D open world
We
area.
hit a little bit of that with Tears of the Kingdom.
Hells yeah, man. It's like man, I said that like 3 times in a row. Oh well, it doesn't matter.
None of this matters.
Is there another because I can just rattle off a list of them, but
You are more. You know what? I'm going to end up telling you one that I was deep.
go for it.
The one before Tears of the Kingdom, Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
which,
okay.
Dude, that changed it up for me for those Zelda games. I can't go back to that linear fucking style now.
Well, and you can tell how good a game is by how many times it's because it started out on the GameCube, right?
No, Breath of the Wild was Wii U and when the Switch came out.
But didn't they go backwards? No, not. Oh no! What I'm thinking of Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess, and then they ended it with Skyward Sword, which was one of the. That's where I finally realized, all right, I'm a little tired of the formula.
Oh,
it was
really?
a cool game. The story, that was one of the few I didn't even finish it, man. And it had awesome boss fights. They changed up some of the main villains, and I was not a fan of motion controls for a Zelda game.
Yeah, no, when it came to a system, man, the Wii when it first came out, they knew what they wanted to do. Like you had okay, so the original systems, you had Sega and you had Nintendo. And there were, some things where it was like, yeah, Nintendo's like baby games. And then like Sega was putting stuff out like Mortal Kombat with no blood codes or anything like that.
Well, no, the first Mortal Kombat, Super Nintendo, there was no blood whatsoever.
Yeah, sweat,
but
gross.
But the Genesis, you had to put in the blood code. Now, I believe for the sequels, they both went ahead and just had the blood in there. But yeah, there was no blood code or fatalities on the first one for Super Nintendo.
But as far as like the, after you get out of the 16-bit and even 32-bit or whatever, those console wars and all that shit, PlayStation, even, the original PlayStation, and then you had the Xbox and PlayStation 2 and all that stuff.
It was more adult stuff.
Those were adult-oriented. And the Nintendo comes in like, hey, you know what? It doesn't matter if you're 8 years old or 80 years old. Play our... And it worked for them.
Dude, it worked for me
great.
for a while. I think with Zelda, and they had a good formula. You kind of caught on to it, and then it got to a point where it just didn't work as much. And then when they made it open world, it's like I really can't go back to some of that stuff. I mean, those games, I love them. Some of them I can play again, like Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, especially Link to the Past. I can go through that game again.
Dude, that is a perfect example. I mean, because like open world always existed. I mean, Link
to the Past is more open world than Skyward Sword, which is a
really?
more, to me it is, because you could do things in a certain order a little bit.
It stopped with like, I mean, I love the Zelda lore. I love the music. I love the characters. I love the graphics. I love everything about it. But I kind of stopped after A Link to the Past. But then that makes me think about that. And I'm sitting there talking about these 2D side scrollers, But I mean, shit, the original Zelda was like an open world.
It's one of the first open world
bird's eye view games. But I mean, I can rattle off tons of them, man. I mean, some of the best open world 3D games were, you've got Morrowind, you've got Oblivion, Skyrim. And Skyrim is another one where it's like, dude, that game, I can't remember how old that game was. I remember I was sitting there playing it one day, And I was telling a coworker about it. He's like, that game's like 14 years old and you're still playing it today. I was like, hell's yeah, I am, because it's that fucking awesome, dude.
I have a hard time with the first person view sometimes, and I feel like it's more
get it.
made for that than the third person. The third person where you see your characters, it's a little awkward for the controls.
And it's all
'Cause
about
I have it for the Switch.
dude, it's all about how you were used to playing. Oh wow. 2011? Jesus
Yep.
Louises for Skyrim.
Yep.
But man,
I feel like Oblivion gets lost in the mix. I never played it, but I remember watching some of you guys play it, and it seemed amazing.
I put so much time into Oblivion, man. But yeah, like when Skyrim came out, it was a game changer. But when you were mentioning the first person stuff, I stopped owning like consoles for a certain amount of time. Like I was given a Super Nintendo like I was playing Super Nintendo games when everybody else was telling me how cool fucking Tomb Raider was and shit like that.
64 and shit.
Yeah, and so I had a computer, man. I had Windows 95, 98. So I was playing Doom, I was playing Shadow Warrior, Thief the Dark Project, all these first person games, and I loved it. I'd turn all the lights off, ruin my eyeballs, putting my face like a foot away from the computer monitor and just getting into it, But one of the things that I'm starting to notice, like Minecraft, like fucking swept everything up. Like, oh man, you're sitting there, you're mining for materials, you're digging everything that you can take, you can use someplace else, and that was pretty cool. But and there's been a couple of games that have taken that formula and made it with better graphics. So like a game like Ark, where you're like taming dinosaurs and you're cutting down trees and you're building forts and all that kind of stuff.
I was just about to ask you about that because I know that's one you were diving in for
Dude,
quite a while.
Ark was awesome, but
couldn't you lose your shit real easily though?
The way that it would work was anything you had. I mean, and of course you could cheat it up a little bit in the options menu. But basically, if you were playing like online with like tribes of people and stuff, you died and your body was wherever it was and your backpack was on your body. And wherever your character had a respawn point, that's where you respawned from. And then your body and your backpack would decompose after a certain amount of time. So if you had an extra set of equipment that you could put on and then go brave the elements to go make it back to your body and steal all your shit back, you were in good shape. But if you were just playing the game, you're like, oh man, I just made a double barrel shotgun. I just got some leather armor. I've got a fucking steel axe and a steel pickaxe and then a raptor. Or like, oh man, these, man, I can't even remember. All of the names of the characters are like actual like Latin dinosaur names, but there was these bats that would fly through, and if they hit you, dude, you immediately got this thing called bone break fever, and the only thing that would get rid of it is if you knew how to make the antidote. So basically you would just slowly die if you didn't have the antidote. And then if your body died in a nest of these bats, then you were pretty much doomed unless you could run in there, grab your shit, and run out. But another one, and I'm sure there's other versions of this game, and it really disappoints me. I'm going to tell you about this because it's still very popular, this type of game. 7 Days to Die. Really awesome zombie game. It's basically like, because there's zombies in Minecraft, but 7 Days to Die is like the zombie apocalypse has happened. You're trying to survive, and then you start off the first week, you've got 7 days to find a place to hunker down. And every 7 days, there's a horde night where like zombies, it doesn't matter where you're at, they will zone in on your location. So the best thing to do is in that first 7 days is to find a place, fortify it, and just survive that first 7 days. And I don't even know how big the map is. We're playing the vanilla version of the game that came out, for the 360?
Is that what it was
Or
on?
One. Xbox One and 360. Xbox One. And there wasn't many updates for the Xbox One or PlayStation. But the computer version has gone through so many different updates that if you were to play the computer version and see the vanilla version that we're playing, it's like night and day. And they're making a newer version of it. But, you know, Leslie and I, we're playing split screen, you know, old school, man.
I don't mind split screen, man, as long as the TV's big enough.
Well, and the thing is that, you know, her TV is big enough, but the problem is now is that the new version of the game when it comes out, it's not going to be split screen.
But can you link systems up in the same house and play like that?
Yeah, of course I could. And all I'd need to do is
You've got a system.
I need to buy a new TV. I need to buy a new system. I need to buy the game.
Why do you need to buy a new TV? Couldn't you just like take a smaller? I know it sucks using a smaller TV, but you got a TV back there. You could always just hook up.
I'm not going to take your TV. You gave me that TV just to watch things on.
Well, you can just take it and use it for the time being.
But still, though. Okay, well, let's cut the TV out of the equation. I've still got to get a PlayStation.
Yeah.
I've got to get the game. I've got to get my own subscription.
And I'm guessing it's a PS5.
I've got to get my own subscription. Ooh. Yeah, I've got to get my own subscription to the PlayStation.
Really,
network.
You got to have that?
Yeah, dude. And the thing is,
That's
I know
ridiculous.
what you're thinking.
I'm used to Nintendo where you can just put the game in.
And the thing is, I know what you're thinking. Like, oh, this must be.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Really? God damn.
Well, and here's the thing, though. I know what you're thinking. Like, oh man, this is a cash grab by Microsoft. And
their
Sony.
shit works. Their shit's way more advanced. So I just don't.
It's dude.
I've never bought theirs because most of the shit I play is Nintendo.
Arc,
because I'm a kid.
Arc for the Xbox. Arc for the for at the time I got the Xbox One. They had split screen. Arc was a beautiful fucking game with excellent graphics. But even playing split screen with Arc, you had the host, and then you had the guest, and you could do split screen. But if you were the guest, you had a in game terms 150-meter bubble that you could go in. So if you were the host and you're like, hey, I want to go over here and check out this cave, and you were the guest and you're like, well, I want to stay here by the house. You're the host. You're like, well, I'm going to go over here to this cave, so you better hope that it's within that 150-meter radius, because what would start to happen is if you were the guest and you were sitting there at home and the host was over there exploring a cave and they went within that 150-meter bubble, that invisible bubble starts to drag you.
Yeah, it makes you pretty much.
Yeah, well, the thing is that it would drag you to a certain point, but the second you hit any resistance from a wall, a rock, a tree, a mountain, or whatever, the game was just like, nope, and then teleport you to where the character was. And I know what you're thinking. That's okay. But let's say you made a raft and you were in the ocean and you wanted to get from one part of the island to the other. Sometimes the game wouldn't register that 150-meter bubble, and you could be standing right next to the host, and then the game wouldn't register that, and it would teleport you. And where is it going to teleport you? Not to where the character is, but to where the character is in relation to the land. So you'd be in the ocean, and then all of a sudden get teleported to the bottom of the ocean. And then you would drown before you could swim back up to the host character.
Yeah, that's kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, well, and the thing is that what it is these games are so advanced now that they do all these tricks that we don't know about. I mean, you can find out about it online, about the different tricks that video game developers do to render the world in front of you to make it seem seamless. But there's always tricks. And the more advanced the game, the more tricks they've got to pull. So with a game like 7 Days to Die, like Minecraft, for instance, a very big game, very low graphics. You could have two characters playing split screen and then just travel as far as they wanted to go in opposite directions at the end of the world and not affect anything on either side. But one of the things I want to do with Leslie, with the vanilla version of 7 Days to Die, I just want to start a game. You go north, I go south. Let's see how far we can go before the programming fucks up and can't render two separate worlds at the same time. You know, so that's one of those things. But that being said, though, you know, these big sandbox type worlds, they made awesome games, and you could, within programming, I mean, the better the games get, the more they let you do what you want to do. You know, dude, I knew a guy who was playing Skyrim, and he had all the DLC, and he's like, yeah, look at this house I built. Yeah, check this out. Come into my house. You know, and he goes into his house. He's like, yeah, that's my wife. Got a kid I take care of. I was like, really? Yeah, I mean, okay, I get it. You know, all you know, chauvinism, you know, aside, it's like, so you bought this game, you paid $70 for the game, you probably paid about $20 for each DLC to just have a real life in an imaginary world. Like, hey, yeah, if that's what you want to do, that's cool, man. Then again, you can also be an assassin that just goes around and fucking ganking people throughout the world and, you know, whatever. But it's amazing the stuff that you can do in these big open world games.
Yeah.
But yeah, the it's funny because I was sitting there like, yeah, you know what, we're gonna talk about, you know, these 2D Metroidvania side scrollers, and then we're gonna go into open world things, and I'm thinking like, that's not really new now that I mentioned, you know, games like Zelda for Nintendo, or even a little bit later, like games like Fallout 2. It's surprising how many people
Weren't
don't even...
those overhead open world games?
The Fallout games?
Yeah, the first two.
Yeah.
Almost like how Grand Theft Auto was when they first came out. They were overhead.
Well, and Grand Theft Auto was kind of... what is it? There's turn-based, which was like Fallout, and then was it real-time? So the original Grand Theft Auto games, which nobody remembers, like people remember Grand Theft Auto 3, and they just call it Grand Theft Auto. Like,
I remember
that's Grand Theft Auto 3. There was
Mike
two before
and
that.
Asa and everybody playing those and Eric back in high school. And
yeah,
stuff,
dude,
playing that at the house.
And nobody remembers. Like I talked to a buddy of mine about, you know, because dude, when Fallout 3 came out, New Vegas, Fallout 4, you know, I was like, yeah, did you ever play like Fallout 1 or 2? No. Where do you find those at? It's like, well, you can't find them anymore, which is fucking sad. But yeah, they were bird's eye view, grid system, turn-based games, which I fucking hate. Turn-based games, I hate them, man.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy's got an awesome storyline. I can't do it because
that's what kept me from playing a lot of those games. Is the turn-based? It slows stuff down.
I tried to play.
Sucks.
Very popular.
Chrono Trigger?
No. Super Nintendo. Mother.
Earthbound.
Boom,
Yeah.
Earthbound.
Mother was. I think that was the first one.
Mother. I think Earthbound was like the third in the series, and it was like Mother 1 and 2 for like the Super Famicom in Japan. It never made it to the United States. And there's probably some ROMs you can download on cdromance.com. They don't pay me anything to say that, but I'm going to put that in the link.
And Earthbound didn't catch on till later.
Yeah.
But it's like you want to dive. I don't know. I guess it slows it down. There's certain turn-based I like. I know this one, you know, people that are really into those kind of RPGs, they'll roll their eyes. But Paper Mario 2, just because you could do certain actions during the turn-based combat. And
I'm glad you brought that back up because I only used it as a description for Tales of Iron. But if you want to talk about Paper Mario, man, go for that because I never played it. I know you were turn-based. I remember you being real into it, and I don't remember how. I don't know if you rented it or whatever.
No, I got it. It was the second one that I was really into, and I just don't know what happened to the game. The second one's the best one. Some of the other ones, there's some that I never even bothered trying just because it just didn't look.
This might be a little dated. When did you try and find a used copy, and what store did you try and find it at? Was it GameStop or was it Funko Land?
I think it is. You're talking about for Paper. Well, it was Paper Mario 2. I think it was GameStop by that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I used to go to Funko Land and scoop up all the fucking, you know,
remember
Genesis games and Nintendo games when they were like just a couple bucks back in the day before everybody was charging an arm and a leg for them.
I remember you coming home one day, This was, back in the day when everybody would just meet over at your parents' house, and you came over there and you're like, man, I was at the video game store trying to find a used version of Paper Mario. Do you know how much that game is? $64. You know what you're thinking, folks at home, $64. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, it sounds about right for a new video game now. Actually, it sounds about right for an almost new used version of a video game now. This was a game that was probably already, 5-10 years old. And then you went to go try and find a used version of it, and it's $64.
But I'll probably pay it now. They're re-releasing it like a physical copy for the Switch.
Nice.
And
nice.
Updating it, but it's still, they only need to update so much because of the way those graphics are, but I'll get it just because I want to finally finish that game.
Well, and it's, and that's another thing too, when they do ports. You would think, okay, you have the program file, just, especially if it's an older game going to a new medium, it's like, okay, so you managed to cram, 62 megabytes into a 64 megabyte cartridge. What's the problem with doing that onto a CD that can hold 4 or 5 or 24, 17,000 gigabytes? Actually, the CDs don't hold that much anymore. You've got the main programming for the CD. You put it in your system, and then you install half the game online, especially with Xbox and PlayStation. But there's something about it where it's like, no, we can't do it anymore because the game's like 30 years old and we lost the code. You lost the code.
Some of them it's weird. Some of it's copyright shit, Like they recently redid Super Mario RPG, which Nintendo did with Square back in the day. Because they used to do a bunch. They worked on a lot of shit together with the Super Nintendo. But you can't get a hold of the original anymore. To download it. You have to get this. I have it downloaded onto the Wii from back when we lived at the house, that original version. But they put that shit out like the end of the Super Nintendo, and they got all that shit with copyrights. And
I remember that stuff with the virtual. So you're like, I'm not hooking my Wii up to the internet. Fuck that shit.
No, I worry about that shit disappearing. All those games. I got like TurboGrafx 16 games on there.
Dude.
There's a bunch of like obvious popular ones, but then like some of the downloadables, like I remember I took a chance on World of Goo, and I think everybody at the house ended up playing that fucking game for a little bit.
I loved that game, dude. I couldn't find it. I got Uriah's computer, and it's fried out now. But even on that computer, at one point, either he or James downloaded World of Goo, and I couldn't find the actual programming to play it, but I was like, man, I would have loved to have played World of Goo with just a fucking mouse instead of the Wii remote.
Yeah.
That would have been cool as shit.
That was one of those ones for some reason everybody
addictive.
got
Simple,
sucked into it.
Once again, simple 2D gameplay.
Even Eric got sucked into that game too.
You
all got further than I did.
Dude,
I think
we had like BioShock and Fallout and Doom and all the Call of Duties that we could play online. And we spent hours just playing the fucking Wii Sports demo that came with your Wii, just playing bowling.
Yeah.
Playing bowling and golf.
Well, part of it I think was being able to play with other people and talking shit.
Oh, dude. Well, that's
especially with the bowling.
That's not an excuse. I mean, we could talk physical shit to each other and see each other and see the reactions. And don't get me wrong, that was priceless. But I mean, you had that with stuff like Call of Duty. Oh man, I hated it, dude. I would. Well, you remember seeing it. I would get home, work a night shift at the warehouse, and like just bring like 2 4 Locos home and just like start playing Call of Duty. I would power chug 2 4 Locos and play Call of Duty. And
were you angry by the end of it?
Yeah, dude, because that shit was just liquid anger, man. It wasn't even like I wasn't even enjoying it. I'm like, fuck this game.
That's like you see the people, somebody's look on their face change with that shit.
This controller's not mine. This TV's not mine. This system's not mine. I got to put this thing down and go to sleep because I'm going to break somebody else's stuff, and I'm not paying for it.
Then they like say something, you turn around with one hand, rip your shirt off. What are you going to do, brother?
No. No, it's more like I'd go walk upstairs and Eric and Uriah would be playing Warcraft and I'm like, I'm going to bed. It happened. Nothing. Just walk past them. Oh, what? You're not going to hover over us and ask us stupid questions about World of Warcraft?
You're like,
yeah, well.
oh, wait. Look at his eyes. He's got the loco in him.
No, and you know, that's.
Would you drink the green one?
The
apple flavor.
I think I got the orange ones. I think I got that. I think those were the ones that
Hector
I bought.
would open that shit at the back of the work van. I could smell. I was driving. I
Of
smell
course,
that
man.
shit.
It's just, dude. It's just. It was in the original, and we're gonna get off of this. We're gonna get off of video games for a little bit to talk about alcohol, but the original Four Loko was a bunch of sugar with a high alcohol content and caffeine, and basically, yeah, it was liquid anger. And it's very funny about stuff like that. Like I remember hearing, because I worked at a beer and wine warehouse. I believe we didn't the one that I was working at. We didn't do the Four Locos, but we did this stuff called Cisco. Cisco was a fortified wine. It looked like it came in a hot sauce bottle. They had to discontinue that stuff because it was responsible for more domestic abuse calls. Dude, it was really, it tasted like candy. You could, I mean, this wasn't me. I never had Cisco, but I remember talking to some of the guys at the warehouse. It was like, the stuff tasted like candy. You would down a bottle of it. It's kind of like Johnny Bootlegger that's out now. You could sit there and just power chug a bunch of that stuff.
Aren't people like that with Fireball? Because I knew a lot of
which
heavy
Fireball.
I don't know. I've known
The Fireball that you get at the liquor store, or the Fireball that you can get at any gas station.
I didn't know of,
because that's a fortified wine. It's basically what it is.
Yeah.
It's 14% alcohol. What harm could it do?
throw you over the top.
Yeah, I know, right? But
it's
anyways,
weird the way people get off on that shit. That ain't my. I mean, I drink, but I can't do that kind of shit.
Yeah, no, it's.
I like being aware of my actions,
but that
for
does,
the most part.
But that does remind me, another version of, you have these big open world games that have made many sequels, like the Elder Scrolls series, or like Fallout, or like Grand Theft Auto, and then you have these series that. It blows my mind the amount of money people have spent. World of Warcraft. Dude, I'm thinking 10 years ago, and that's when we lived, when it was all
World
of us.
of Warcraft
But
is
Eric
going on
was
20 years.
20 years. God damn.
The first
that game
one
is
came
20
out-
years old.
It's 2004, 2005. I feel like he got that like right. They were still. I remember him being at the apartment still.
Yeah,
Eric
exactly,
and Uriah were playing
exactly.
it. So it was around 2004, 2005. When we moved into the house, that was when the first expansion came out. So it had already been going. I can't believe
And every
that-
single time,
and
paying
people
for the
still play it,
expansions,
man.
They not only paid for the expansions, they also paid for a monthly subscription to play one game. Like with the Xbox, it was like, hey man, we got to go get an Xbox Live card. We got to go get another $100 3-month Xbox Live card. And on top of that, Eric and Uriah were still fucking dumping money into World of Warcraft. And I mean, hey man, it's a thing you like to do.
They like to do, but they made close friends and shit on that.
Really,
thing
they
too.
did, dude. Remember when Eric went up to Hershey Park?
Yeah,
just
and
with
met
his
up with a
fucking-
bunch of people.
Yeah,
He
dude,
still talks to some of those people, I believe.
That was the coolest thing. I mean, that was pretty cool. But then, sadness at the end there. But I mean, dude, Uriah found like his fucking girlfriend playing that game. Went all the way to Canada. Did he go to Canada?
He was going to.
He was going to. She came down here.
Yeah.
You know
Tracy.
what was great about that? Because I was talking to her on, oh my God. This might have still been MySpace. Or no, like AOL Messenger, if you want to date that shit. I would talk to her on that, and she was like, hey, I'm coming to Canada. I'm coming from Canada down to the States. What do you want? And I was like, don't get me anything. She was like, I got to bring you something. And I was like, well, you know what? If you're going to come down from Canada, get me something from Canada that I couldn't get in the States. What does she get you and Eric? She gets you and Eric fucking bottles of Crown Royal, which you can get in the States, but still, neither one of you at the time would talk about drinking whiskey.
And that frisbee over there.
but neither one of you had any interest in drinking
And that
whiskey.
bottle right there.
Yeah, yeah, right there. And then what does she get me? She gets me a 12-pack of Molson. A 12-pack of Molson? I was like, I can get Molson here in the States. The cool thing about the Molson that she got me was that it was supposed to come with a fucking maple seed where I could grow a maple tree. I'm fucking seeding that thing. But she did get me a thing of blackjack gum, which I don't look very hard for it because it tastes like licorice. But it was something that I'd never seen in the States, but I remember it from Pump Up the Volume with Christian Slater. We're dating ourselves fucking hard on this one.
Oh, shit.
But anyways, I think we're gonna cut this podcast down. It was really cool talking about these video games, man. Stuff that
Indeed.
stuff that we like talking about. To me, very very coherent. I don't want to get back into all of the stuff from the gentleman who made the very what I consider constructive criticism. He doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to send this link specifically to his comment that he made on the video that we made. I hope this is
at least he reached out.
exactly. I was gonna say, hey, I hope this is better. It was never meant to be funny. It was always meant to be entertaining. Yeah, folks. This is just us, man. Doing what we do.
Doing our thing.
We want to have fun
on a Wednesday.
on a random ass rainy Wednesday. Hells yeah.
Good evening. Good night.
Good night, folks.
Yeah. Later. Oh yeah, like and subscribe, please. And talk shit.